Clock. Welcome. This is one of our most favorite nights of the year. Before we get rolling, I'll point out that we've got 3 to 5 board directors in attendance to carry out our kind of activity tonight. Send them apologies. And if James could lead us in the reciting of the Pledge of Allegiance, that would be great.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This really is one of the nights we look forward to every year. We really enjoy the opportunity to hear from all of you and get a chance to listen from our union partners. So before I jump into asking questions and talking about how our night's going to go, I thought it might be helpful just to go around the room and talk about the name and which building you're at or which location, how long you've been in Tahoma, that kind of thing, the board directors, perhaps your roles that you play, your cares role, things of that nature. So start with you.
Thank you.
You're going to model this for us.
Oh, a model, okay. My name is Kathy Hernandez. I'm a paraeducator at Cedar River. I've been employed in Tahoma for 4 years, and we've lived in this district for, I'm terrible at math, that's why I teach and reading. I think 7 years is when we moved here. 7 years ago. I have 3 kids of my own in the district, 2 are at the high school and then 1 at Glacier Park. And that's where I met Lee. Let's see, there was something else I was supposed to say.
I think you got it. I think you're good.
Excellent.
Yeah, well done.
Okay, we're zigzagging, right?
I'm going to get confused.
I'm Deborah Scratch. I work at Cedar River Elementary and I run the EP program. My daughter's graduated from the district and graduated from college and now has her first job. This summer. So, let's see. So she's been through the district K-12, and she actually figured out. I'm talking all about my daughter, but one of the things that I loved about this school was that she had no idea what she was going to do with this school district, and you know those, I think they're called days in school, where they have the field trips because the seniors are doing their thing, and she hopped on a bus and went up to Ditch, and she came back and said, "Face on people." Yes. So yeah. So now she's working for Senator. So very excited. Yeah. So that's me.
Carrie Wellstaff, and I've been in the district for 27 years, and both of my kids started here in kindergarten and both graduated in 2011, 2013, and I've been a bus driver for almost 15 years with the district.
And I'm Ruthie Happy. I'm going on, I can't say now, for 2023, 31 years in the school district. Most of all my time, except for 1 year, has been at Lake Wilderness Elementary. And I am a parent educator for social work.
My name is Pete Miller. I am one of the school board directors and the president this year. I have 2 kids in the system. I've got a son at high school, educator. Also took the bus to Adjournment this year, and really enjoyed that. He's on bare metal, the robotics team, he's in the band, he's in video production, that's one of his favorite classes. My daughter, Ashley's a seventh grader at Mapleview. She is going to be performing in a musical coming up next month. So if you want to go see Beauty and the Beast, you'll have 6 chances to go see that. So anyway, we're I am, the board has distributed each of the 5 CARES goals to each of the 5 of us. And I am the equity board director. I also am connected to Rock Creek Elementary, and then I'm also the finance rep for the board. My day job, I'm the CPA, so it's good fit there.
I'm Sharon Monaco, and I've lived in the area since 1986. I've had 3 kids go through the system, and I think I've worked in almost every building except for the newer ones. And I'm up at Summit Trail Middle School, and I'm one of the para representatives for the PSC union.
I'm Shannon Higdon. I work in transportation as a bus driver. I've been there for about 5 years now. I was born and raised here, and actually have 5 generations in the Valley, so very long term. My granddaughter just actually left, and she'll be back hopefully soon. So, but yeah.
You get the gold star today. Sometimes they say the longest distance traveled, but we'll say the longest time lived here. Yes, yeah.
Seen a lot of changes.
Hi, everybody. My name is Malia Hollowell, and this year I am the school board vice president. And I have 3 kids in the district. I have a 7th grader at Mapleview, a 5th grader at Lake Wilderness, and a 4th grader at Shadow Lake. And as Pete said, this really is one of our favorite nights of the whole year. So thank you for taking time out of your very long days to meet with us and give some information about what your experience is like. So I'm really excited to get to chat with you today.
I'm Brenda Carl. I am a bus driver. I'm at my 23rd year. Woo! And I'm the vice president too, in charge of new employees, the new orientation, and I've been busy. I have 3 kids, all graduated from Tahoma. I'm now married, one's married. So, no grandbabies, but and I've lived here all my life, so.
Okay, I'm Penny Anderson. I'm the office manager at Summit Trail. I love that building. I've been there. I worked for 9 years, and all except for 2 months at the high school, I've been in that building, which I really like. I started off as a substitute para back in the day, and was a para for a couple of years, and then just kind of gravitated over towards the clerical way. And I just really love it. And I'm on the equity steering committee for the district, which has been really interesting and fun to hear some great minds talk. So, yeah.
Michael Wiggins. I have 5, now 4 kids in the district. I have 3 at the high school, 4 at the high school next year. Condolences to the bus driver, Corey, simply because I'm sure that transportation is at the calling several times. In fact, the first day I had the bus stop, I was following it because my kids asked me to, and I knew that was my kids that made that bus stop. And yeah, so it's been an adventure ever since. So thank you to the I always have to share that. There's certain people in this district I always have a sense of guilt when I walk around. Having 5 kids go through the Mike's wife is one of them. Like, I see her and it's overwhelming sense of grief. But anyway, so yeah, 5 kids. My oldest is learning how to do laundry at college and barely getting by his classes. So that's a launch of sorts, I guess. I'm a teaching and learning rep. That's my kind of role on the board. The board goal that I champion is high expectations. The schools that I'm partnering with in the high school and Shadow Lake Elementary. I work closely with the special services department. One of my children is on the spectrum, so I'm very familiar with the community and the groups and the advocates in the district and in the in our community involved with those programs. And I'm going to say my kids is the only district my kids have ever known, so we've been here for about 20 years almost. All in favor? Love it. Glad to be here.
I'm Shannon Hendrickson, and I moved down here full-time in '94. I had 2 kids go through the system. My daughter finished up at Kent Lake. My son is 30, my daughter's 23. She is a PE and health teacher at Brad Cooley School District. And I do payroll here at CSE, the specialist rep. Been with the district going, I think, on 11 and a half years. And so I live part-time in Maple Valley and part-time over in Bridgeport, Washington on the other side. So I have a little commute every weekend. That's it.
I'm Mike, I'm the superintendent. Been here since '77.
You have a fancy with help.
I have a fancy little development. 4 kids through the system. This is my 29th year.
I'm James Stanley. I am the communications specialist here at Tahoma. I moved to Washington from Georgia about 2 years ago, and I've worked here in the Tahoma School District for a little over a year now, and really loving it.
Well, welcome. Thank you, everybody, for that. Appreciate it. It's been said a few times already, but we really are thankful that y'all are here and looking forward to hearing your experiences. And you have an incredible opportunity to influence how these goals are played out in the buildings and in the corners of the district where you all work. And you're an important partner to the board of the district, and so that's why we want to do this. I'm glad that we can. You're have a great perspective and an opportunity to see where the needs are in our system. What's working and where the kids might have needs that can be addressed by our current goals and our future goals, and what's effective and so forth. And so we're looking forward to hearing some of that tonight. We see, some of that in, we're setting goals, we're focused on strategic things like Tahoma Cares, which is everywhere, something that you've probably begun to hear a little bit about Tahoma 100, which is coming. And we have that opportunity to think strategically about those kinds of things. But as far as seeing it play out and impacting kids inside of buildings, inside of classrooms, on the playground, and the buses, we don't have the best opportunity to necessarily see that. So this is really critical for us to hear from you, and we're really looking forward to it. So because you're just there every day. So I've spent some time with Ruthie talking through some of the things that have been on our mind, and I guess just perhaps as a reminder that at the board level, we really are focused on strategic thinking around what's going to move our system forward, what's going to be the right tool that our kids need to be successful, and those kinds of things. And so we've been sharing some ideas about things we can talk about tonight. We've got some questions that we'll go through. But I'm also keenly aware that I read those questions perhaps differently than others might. And so I'm hoping that there will be clarifying questions and things of that nature so that we can make sure that we're talking about the right thing. But ultimately, we're here wanting to understand how things like Tahoma Cares and Tahoma 100 are playing out in the buildings and throughout the district. So, Mike, anything you add for that? Anything you add before we go on? Okay. Okay. All right. So yeah, like I said, we've had a series of questions, and I'm just going to get things started here, and hopefully a bit of dialogue going. So from your chairs, what do we need to do to support changing student demographics and populations in our buildings as we grow and move forward? Or grow in district, and what are the things that you're seeing that would help us meet that growth in the right way?
I have one thing about that, probably very specific, but I think we need more ELL support. We have a half-time teacher at the half-time at Mapleview and half-time at Summit Trail. She's amazing, fantastic. She builds these relationships with these students who are non-English speaking. And she has a fantastic pair that supports her as well. And she is just so amazing, but half a day isn't really a lot to support. Over the years, I've just seen like more and more non-English speaking students and families. Sometimes the students will speak English, but the parents don't. And I just think we could use a lot more. So if we had a full-time person in that area, if we had 2 decent writers, because she is amazing, I think that type of support would be really helpful.
And we're sad that Lisa went from Cedar River to Yellow, but I'm glad that
She is thriving in that. The kids love her, and she just builds these relationships with the kids where they trust her and they can come to her, and it's been so helpful to see these kids kind of blossom and open up, like they feel like they have that support. But it would really be nice if it was more like, full-time rather than just
I'd like to piggyback on that. Things I've seen is that we know we're growing, and the programs we have in our building are getting larger. Between our RAP and MAP, ELL, sales program, we're just growing. It's just, we have such a good school district. People are coming here for these programs. And I think staffing is going to be something that really needs to be looked at because we're growing in order to meet the needs. And also T&L looking at the programs that you're going to be implementing of what already our classified employees are doing, and then we're asking more, and to maybe take the time to see what they're already implementing and how can we, in a positive way, help them implement more. So, because we do have a lot in our buses, they're pretty full.
Ruthie, may I ask you a follow-up question? Like, so when you say you'd like help implementing more, where my mind goes is you would love tools to implement this new curriculum, let's say, if you're talking about the math curriculum. So you'd like to have the tools, training, and support that you would need as a parent to be able to support what's happening in the classroom. Am I thinking?
Program tools, training, and time. I know our RAP pairs are offering amazing support, and that program alone, I've noticed, has had a lot of changes within just the last few years, and I think I just got another addition, something to that. So just, to kind of help you want to implement these great things, which are awesome because we have really good stuff in our district. How we can help our staff be able to meet that, and kind of, I guess, we'd say, be realistic and try to meet those goals.
For bus driving, I mean, I'm always looking from the outside of the buildings. I mean, you guys have the experience in the buildings and stuff, but parking, where the bus lanes are, the parent drop-off, the parent pickup, staff parking. These are all, if you go to any of our schools and drop-off and pickup in the high school, we are getting very full. So when I hear the district, when you've been talk about 900 more children coming into our district over the next 5 years, where does staff park? Where do the parents, I mean, how does this affect so I'm very much from the outside, that is an important part, because if they get into school and everything's great, but nobody can get the kids to school, or the buses are running 20 minutes late because they can't get down wet road, it's a huge impact. And by the time that happens, it's too late to address it.
That's a really good point because we work before and after school, and my staff has to be mindful about where they park so that they can get out when at dismissal time for us, which is we dismiss the kids to go to school in the morning, and then you can't get out because the whole parking lot is completely blocked up and bus drivers are trying to get up the hill at Cedar River so that they can drop off the kids, and it's just, it's challenging. And then trying to come back in the afternoon. I have staff who comes in half an hour, 45 minutes early for their shift just so they can get into the parking lot, because our parking lot gets blocked off by parents who are lined up to pick up their children an hour before dismissal time. And it's a big challenge. It's a big challenge, and I understand, you know, they want to be able to get their kids, but we have these buses. You know, we have buses, so we're just coming to the buildings or something. I don't know. It's just like you should be able to get into your school's parking lot. As far, you know, you can't get in, and there's all these empty spaces, but you can't get in because they're locked up. So.
I just covered around for Cedar River, and I don't go there very often anymore. So I don't know all the little nuances of getting up the hill. And so I'm down at the bottom, and I'm flipping my radio, and Cedar River, you know, can I come up? Because there's bigger cars all the way up. Oh yeah, come, we're holding the cars. Okay, so I start going up the wrong side, right? And I just get turned, and I realize that one of the cars is in the middle of the road. So I just stop, and I'm like, it's gonna move, and so he kind of goes over, but his rear is still out, and so I'm trying to inch. My back end, I'm watching the yellow gate, because I'm about a foot from that, and I'm about 6 inches from his front, and I'm just like trying to squeeze by him to get up the hill so I can get in before, and so, I mean, it's instances like that, you go, wow, the traffic makes such a, it's real.
Yeah, I've learned to open that gate as wide as it will go when I open up the gate in the morning. Yes, you guys can
Every inch.
yeah.
I would like to say that when I pulled into the high school this afternoon and saw that the fence posts are going up, I think every bus driver went,
Yes.
We thank you for putting that up, because there is nothing more scarier than coming in, having a student step right off the sidewalk right in front of you without even looking. Just turn and step off. I watched one student do it in front of another bus and almost flipped that kid. But we thank you. Thank you for putting that fence up.
Thanks for calling us. Well, I'm going to keep us moving. We've got Ruth and I again with 6 fabulous questions, and I want to make sure we have time to get to all of them, not most of them. The next is we have board goals that are currently focused on home characters. We know that many of you have participated in department plans that are also focused on those goals. How are you seeing that work impacts kids in buildings, on buses, on playgrounds, etc.?
I can share from when Tahoma first started to some of them, I know they were giving presentations here to the school board. I heard positive feedback from people who were part of that, and people who they said they really liked that they actually came, they were part of it. It wasn't that the district decided this and we're going to tell you this. They actually collaborated, came together as teams and decided that they felt like they did belong and that they were part of something in our district, which is great. And I think how if you're saying how it impacts kids in your buildings, your buses, everywhere across the district, when you feel like you're part of something, when you feel like you belong in something, it comes out in your work, in your quality of work, in your expectation of yourself, and meeting those. And I've heard people just very positive about being part of that. And so I really thank you. Tracy did a great job years ago talking to a lot of people, and then to make it happen is huge. And I think moving forward, it's going to take work to continue that to happen. But I think that's work worth doing for our school district as a whole. Have everybody involved. It was great. I don't know if anybody wants to add. I know some of you were really part of the implementing your building, deciding that.
Well, we're still working on the goals for EP. Obviously, we have a lot of work to do, and it's challenging for us to get together as a team because there are only 6 of us who are full-time employees, the site managers, and our assistants are really piecemeal, an hour and a half here, maybe 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and we have other things going on. So we did manage to get some people together to help put together some goals for this. And one thing that I really enjoyed about doing this was just how nice it was to be able to get together and focus on how we can, deliver something to our kids that would be a quality program. Just all set really specific goals to help the kids feel like they're welcome, that we care about them. Those were the 2 main things, is making sure our kids feel welcome, make sure that they're taken care of well, and that they know that we care about them. No matter what kinds of things they're going through, because we get them early in the morning and then after school, and a lot of them tend to have, if they have special needs, then, especially early in the morning or late at night or after school, they're kind of done. And I forgot where I was going with this. So it can be really challenging to deal with that, but just, focusing on making sure that they know that we're here and we're doing our very best to take care of them as we can. Because there's such a diverse group of needs in our program. I mean, we have a lot of kids who have special needs, and we have kids who work in a sales program, and kids with who are differently abled, or who have severe autism, or severely on the spectrum, can't communicate, or are nonverbal, severe emotional issues, severe behavioral issues, and we can't turn any of these kids away. But we're not, we don't receive the kind of special training that like people in the sales program and the special ed program receive. So it's difficult for us to, so we do a lot of hunting and let's try this, let's try that, let's see if this will work, let's see if that will work. Sometimes kids show up when we know nothing about them, and that's fine. If you're a kid who can just walk into a room and be, nobody notices you, but when you walk into the room and everybody's going, oh my goodness, how do we take care of this kid? That has been our main struggle. And it's hard to attract assistants that can work with them. So staffing is a huge issue that we need to work on in our program. And training. We need staffing and training, but we're doing the best that we can for these guys.
Deborah, I see the work that you do out on the playground.
Oh.
The kids that are in EP love each other. They come up to each other all the time. They check in on each other, and that's what you've shown them. So you should be really proud of what you've been doing. They're some of the best kids out on that playground. Like just way to check in on each other. Hey, so nice to see you. And it could be like today, pouring down rain, but the joy in their face, it really shows how much fantastic work you've been doing with those kids.
Thank you. That sounds great.
I'm going to keep us moving. Our wellness goal is not just about kids, it's about staff too. And we are wondering where you are seeing us make progress on this goal and where we might have gaps. And we were chatting a little bit about this earlier, but more specifically perhaps around the adults and the wellness supports that we've got in place for our adults, whether it be the physical activity classes and things or mental health supports and things. Where do you see growth in our offerings and the way we're doing things and where might there be gaps?
We can't take part in the wellness program because it's before and after school. It's and I know a lot of the bus drivers can't either because it's before and after school. So there is one thing I guess I could do is the laps room, but I'm over at, I think they still offer that at the aquatic center, but I walked in there and the chlorine is so bad that you can't, your eyes water up and you can't breathe, so I just walked right back out of it. A couple times they did offer some online courses, some online classes, what's her name, the healthy.
Is that during,
Liz?
It was, yes, Liz Babert, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's amazing. So that was nice, but I don't know if I've seen anything from her lately that isn't online.
I know the district has the wellness committee, and we do have someone on that committee. We have our board meeting this week, and it's going to show the report. So that's really good that our district has a wellness committee, that they're actually, you're looking at this, you're paying attention to this. I think it's a gap that could be, we offer some great classes, that's great, but where a gap might be is to remember that coming out of COVID, our children were highly impacted. Well, so were our adults, so were the staff. And just, to always have that mindful that we are coming out, we are moving forward, which is great. And then I think with Tahoma, with the growth, that's another big impact on staff, is to just have that in the back of your mind, how we help our staff mentally, even, mental days is now a big thing. You hear all over the place. But to be mindful that our staff also need to deal with things happening in life today that kind of didn't happen 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. And then even moving forward, changes are happening. It's just how it is. And to help our people, to help all of us be able to move forward in a positive way. So I just know that is sometimes I see people are just, they have a day and they can be exhausted.
I agree with the mental health days, and TEA granted mental health days in their last contract, and I really hope there's something like that for classified in the future.
I just know our classified staff, we have a great classified staff. They are, the more people I meet and the more I know about them and what they do, even outside of our school district, are amazing. And they give over 100% to try to meet the needs of the students in this district. And it's hard sometimes when I see someone having a hard time. Because it's like, hey, just, it's gonna be okay, it's gonna be okay. But it's real, you know, we're all coming out of COVID, we're short staffed right now, short space. Moving people, where are we, you know, we're trying to do as much as we can to meet the needs of the students, and just sometimes I feel like we just need to hug our staff. Yeah, really, because they do an amazing job. They care a lot. We have our staff, I believe they're here because they care about the students and they care about their success. So,
I would say the staff does have a heart for the kids. That's why they're teaching and been, you know, in the district as long as they have. And I think that's the one piece we're kind of missing this year. There's not enough time for just staff to get together. You know, whether it be for 15 minutes or 3 minutes. The other day I was walking a student of mine from one end of the building all the way down to the gym, but I passed several staff members that I've known for years, and I don't see them that often. So I was asking them how they were really doing, and then hugging them on the way. And the student said to me, "Are we going to hug everybody before we get to touch them?" I said, "Yes, we might." But, you know, people need that. They really do, the staff. And so sometimes you just got to make time for them. And the same with some of the students. I can read some of the students' faces, and it's like, what's going on? Do you need to talk? And they know me well enough, they'll go, yeah, and they'll tell me and stuff. So I help them through or suggest maybe they go into counseling or whatever. But we're missing that time where we can put that quality into both students and staff.
So, yeah, Sharon made a really good point. Something that has always been hard, but more this year, is classified being able to come together as a whole in their buildings. That has been a challenge this year. And I think that from years of experience, it's very important to make sure you are able to bring your teams together as a whole, because you want your building to be a team as a whole. Where when you start not having team as a whole and you just have this little pocket and this little pocket and this little pocket, it starts, you kind of lose that, almost that school-wide camaraderie. And I'm huge on camaraderie, I'm huge on teaming. You may work in a different program, but I'm here for you as much as I believe you're here for me. And that is something I think one thing I've seen as a gap is the collaboration time as a whole inside buildings for classified staff.
Kind of related to a few things we talked about, but you mentioned there's a number of you participating in committees of a variety of sorts. Well, as you mentioned, equity, we mentioned, the ad hoc budget was one, safety and security, there's a lot of committees going around. We're thankful that you have participated and shared your perspective on these kinds of things. We're wondering just about the process, not necessarily about the content of any one of those committees necessarily, but what were your takeaways about the process of participating in those groups? And because we want to engage you more in those types of partnership opportunities going forward. So just wondering what's been effective.
Sharon, you've been on more than one committee.
Well, I was on the housing committee, and then I was also on the security and safety committee. The housing committee went very long because of COVID, but it didn't seem like it just ended, and not knowing kind of what even transpired because of what we studied earlier. So, and then they fed back to you, but then as on the committee, you don't find kind of what's next, or what was your take of it, or that. Same with the safety committee, safety and security. There was a lot that was presented to us, and I understand with the security and everything, you can't take it and read it, but it's like we didn't have time to really go through the reports and to And then it was, I think we met for a month and a half, maybe 2 months, here and there. And it was, so it just didn't seem like we got enough time for this. So more time, everything is better. And to find out what your guys' take or what you're looking for more.
What do you mind me asking, what impact do you feel like there's specific impacts on the report that came back from the committee as we listened to it as a board? That kind of
Well, I mean, I guess, like the security, we didn't have much time to read the entire report that you guys presented us. We did some field trips and we came up with a thing that I felt that there was more questions to be answered for us to make a informative decision to present. I think, and I don't think we had enough. And that was my personal take on it. I think that we needed more time to dig deeper to present something to the board. And then, I don't know if the board has decided or, come back as a feedback of, you guys have met here, you guys know who's on the committees, saying, hey, we've met, these are what kind of goals and doing.
And I'd just say both of those, and my background from go astray, but I'd say both of those communities specifically are feeding right into the work we're doing with Tahoma 100, which is yet to come. The March 2nd, I believe it is when we have our community cabinet for Tahoma 100, where we're going to be getting a lot of input, and all of that is going to funnel into, in particularly with those two, our facilities conversations. What kinds of facilities needs do we have, both in brick and mortar buildings themselves, but also the security that surrounds each other, not just new ones, but existing ones. Specific to, I hear you, thank you for sharing that, but just I guess my answer, specifically those two communities still.
It just kind of seems like we were kind of not thinking.
Yeah.
Do you want to share any more?
No, I don't think I'll share out here on that. Honestly, I feel like I'm just still, it's a learning experience for me on that committee, and I haven't really spoke a lot at the committee because I was taking so much in, and it just was really interesting to hear people share their visions and their thoughts and ideas, and I just really appreciate being a part of it, and I feel like I will grow into it a little more than I am right now. Yeah.
I want to say thank you for having us part of the committees. I had the opportunity to be on the ad hoc budget committee. I thought it was really good. I thought that it really, more than one thing I thought, but one thing I really liked is that Mike, you ran it along with Lori and you yourself and Bill. Because you guys are the ones who deal with our finances, and to have that group, I thought the group size was great. I thought the input, asking everybody's input was great. I learned things on that committee that I didn't realize before, even though I've been here for a very long time. I just thought the process of that committee went really, really well. And I like the openness. It felt very comfortable in that setting to be able to speak openly by everybody in that room. And I thought that was really good too, because it felt like a really safe place to talk about how people felt or wanted to see within the school budget. So I really like that. But thank you so much for letting us be part of committees. Because I know there's a lot going on, but to have our voice there as classified employees, thank you. I appreciate it.
We're an important partner. We wouldn't want to be no. Absolutely. Okay, well, one of the staffing goals for the district relates to continued recruiting and retention of qualified staff that are representative of our community. What is PSC's role in the retention piece of this Friday, and how can we partner together in service of that overall goal?
Well, we have our Brenda there who meets our new hires and talks about Tahoma. I think working together with onboarding, the onboarding topic for new hires, having classified input who are currently here, or but asking those people too who are newer about their experience, I think is really beneficial. I think Tahoma is a really good district. I mean, I actually talked to someone not long ago and they said, well, I'm from this district and I'm not saying nothing. And I go, well, what do you mean nothing? Like, how's it going here for you? She goes, I love it. I love it. And there is nothing wrong about anything. Nothing. This is a great place. I love it. I love the staff. So it was like, this is good. This is good feedback. But I guess working together, something that I've always have expressed, I say this even to legislators, is invite you to go and see programs. I know you guys just went to the schools and you went to see teachers in classrooms. I want to encourage you to go and serve food in the lunches. Go and see what EEP is like in the morning or afternoon. Go in those RAP programs. Look at what those RAP pairs, the data, and what they're teaching. I know you've been on school buses. Go in and see what's being done in your preschool programs. ELL, go see what is happening in those SAIL programs firsthand. Go with a custodian, maintenance, see what they're doing firsthand. I really want to encourage you because, sometimes if you don't go and see firsthand things, first meet your people, meet them, they'll be, oh my gosh, a school workers. It's great. I love it. It's really good. But I just want to encourage you to go out on the playground for a while and talk to the staff out there. That's when those things happen. People feel like, oh my gosh, they came and talked to me. Like I'm a part of this. And I think that's a good way of retaining your people. Because I don't think that happens in school districts.
Brenda, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Sure.
She called you out. And I'm wondering, if going around the room, there's a lot of big numbers that people said that they've been here for a long, long time. And I'm wondering, retention definitely is one of the things we want to continue to do well, but what have we done to keep our people here and take one to do that?
It's been, I won't say a challenge, but I think that having the staff in the office that does all the paper pushing, Letta's awesome. I mean, because I walk in there and Letta's got everything laid out. And she just says, sign here, do this, do that, put that there, and they're done, So I don't know how, if they're doing like I don't know if they do like a weeding out process or nothing. Or I imagine they do. We do at transportation and with Tiffany and them guys, but because usually when I get to meet with them, they're like, they're all done doing their paperwork, and I'm like, okay, now breathe. Okay, now that you've done all that, I can tell them, I say, hey, introduce yourself, where are you going to work, what are you going to be doing? And they're like, okay, so, then I tell them I've been driving for 23 years, so I'm like, holy crap. But living here, growing up here and living here, I love it here. You don't hear it very much of a bad seed, If somebody's got an attitude over there, it's taken care of. Whether it's union, personality, mechanical or whatever, you don't hear that. It's taken care of by somebody in that area. We got great people here, and we really take care of our people and our staff, and I'm proud to say I'm proud of them.
I'd like to add, because we are growing, that I think something that's unique here too is that your doors open. That our district office doors are open here, that anyone can come and talk to me. Anyone can come and talk to me. I think that's huge. I know it's huge for the community, but it's huge for staff to know that we're growing, and that even though we're growing, we still are able, if we wanted to, we can go and talk to our school superintendent. We don't have to jump through a lot of people necessarily to get there. And that is something I think that's unique again in Tahoma, is that though we're growing, we still want our doors open for our employees.
The same is true with HR.
Right.
Their door is always open, so you can always talk to them about an issue and stuff. And I think, if anything, there might maybe need, it always goes back to time, for the new people to be able to meet with somebody that's been on staff for a little bit of time when they have questions. Because as a new person, you come on and you have 50 million questions while you work there. There's less questions. And I know this year we've had probably about 9 new pairs in my building. So they're always asking me what to do. So I'm always explaining about, oh, thanks, that makes it so much easier. Because they blow everything out of proportion. So, you know, that's.
Got one more question if we have time. We are exploring potential bonds to support this growth we've talked about. And our levy expires in February. We're anticipating doing that again for a levy. PSC, I think, has an opportunity to support those potential measures. And what information can the district provide to be useful for PSC members to consider supporting that possibility?
Well, we know our state office, we can always ask for support from our state and PSC level. As a district level, I think it's important for us to be part of the committee, and both me and Carrie were on it before. I think one of the things that could be helpful from the district side and from the school board is letting us know what you would need. Because levies impact us classified quite a bit. And information that we can share, what is it that you would need that at that time that we can help you with? Because sometimes we don't know. We know the phone banking, we've done that. If you need us to go and talk, share information to who, where, we can do that. Do you want us to attend town hall meetings? And talk, there's things we can do that we're willing to do because a levy hugely impacts us in a bond. But I think part of it is we also need to know what is something we would need to see what can we do?
Before I was ever involved in the leadership in the union, so years ago we were doing a levy, and I remember them bringing, and I'm pretty sure they brought it down to transportation, like a flyer, and gave to transportation. And I'm assuming they did this at buildings, but it was information about it. And this is before I was able to sit in on meetings or anything, and it was very, because I'd lived here for so long, but I hadn't, and I'd always even before, voted for anything because my kids were in the district. I had every reason to. But we, being 500 classified, we now are in a position where people ask. And without that information, I remember before I was coming to these meetings and hearing about it, it was very helpful. Oh, I have some information, and I could share. So anything you can pass along to the employees, information about it is very.
And if they have questions, who to talk to get accurate information, that's, I think, is critical too. But yeah, we support getting involved. But if, I've been on the committee a couple times, and if I don't know how to help.
Thank you. Any other,
After we get done with all this, I have something to ask the board. So,
Okay, well, I think we're kind of there.
Okay.
You took
So,
the words right out.
So we're having our classified dinner. I'm so excited. So I would like to formally invite our school board members and the, what's that?
Cool.
Okay. Did you not know?
I'm leaning in on what details.
Right, so SDMS, it's on March 15th. You can bring a +1. It is from 6 to 8 o'clock in the evening. Doors open at 5:30. And Tracy and Scott, and I'm gonna hit Sean Kelly up for helping get all the tables and stuff, help with that. But the school board, we'd very much like to have a head count if possible.
Okay.
If, maybe you can reach out to Ruthie here in the next 2-3 weeks to let her know if you're gonna be able to come. And if you'd like to bring a guest, we'd love to have you. And it'll be a fun evening.
Mhm.
I think it'd be really nice to see the school board.
You guys have been to a classified.
Oh, it's awesome.
Lots of fun.
We got strung up in that thing that happened for the last 3 years.
Yeah, we don't want to.
I think y'all have one since we started.
No.
We started it over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
We had it the year before,
Uh-huh.
and we were in negotiations when just the week that school closed, and we didn't have it. So we're very excited to be having this. So we're hoping a good turnout, and we love to have you guys. So thank you.
Well, thanks again, honestly, it's been a long day, I know, and you stuck around to provide this really valuable input for us. It was a wonderful conversation with thank you for allowing me to be here, sharing. It means a lot, and we're gonna, it's gonna be really helpful in our work going forward, so thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
We have everybody that we're expecting?
Yeah.
Right. We're not.
All except that might be like a real rising from the dead situation.
Okay.
One way to whether they show all I got 30 seconds. She's like, oh, this is
We're okay? Yeah, we'll reconvene at 7:04 if we need it lost call time. Coming out of recess. Welcome, hi everybody. Nice to see you. Thanks for being here. We said it last hour, I'll say it again for sure, that this is one of our favorite evenings. We really enjoy getting to hear from all of you and your unique perspectives and experiences and watching some of the goals that we set in this room and push into the district and really see how they come together and impact kids in classrooms. It's a really big deal. I've got a few other things I want to say, but before doing that, I thought it would be good to go around the room and make sure that we all know one another and maybe just name where you work and kids in the system or any of those fun details you'd like to share. Want to start, Kate?
Okay, I'm Kate Van Gorp, and I am at Leisure Park, and I have no children in the system.
And you are a biz?
And I am a behavior specialist.
That's right.
Yes.
Jamie Mercer, special education teacher at Summit Trail, TEA vice president, and I have kids in the system, third grader at Cedar River and kindergartner at Cedar River.
I teach them.
Oh.
I'm Abby, a teacher at Cedar River. I am the school board liaison, so I'm always sitting in the corner listening to you. And I get to meet with our teaching and working group as well.
And I'm Renee Street, and I teach 7th and 8th grade English at Summit Trail. And I'm also part of Teaching and Learning and Roundtable, PTA Roundtable, and a bunch of other things. I do not have kids in the district anymore, but when we moved here almost 27 years ago, our daughter was getting ready to start kindergarten, so we moved here with the school district. And they are both Tahoma graduates and off being adults and being awesome. So I feel like I owe a lot to this district because they help us raise our kids.
My name is Pete Miller. I'm the school board president this year. I have 2 kids that go to Tahoma School. My son is a junior in the high school, and he is in the band. He is doing bare metal robotics. He's doing video production in some of his favorite classes every day. My daughter is a 7th grader over in Maple Middle. She is going to be performing in Beauty and the Beast next month. You'll have 6 chances to see it, so tickets are not on sale yet. They go fast, so I encourage you to check that out. It's going to be fun production. I also, the board, there's 5 cares goals, there's 5 board members, and we decided to split up each of the goals so that each of us can go into every building and see how those things are playing out inside the buildings. I happen to be the equity champion. I'm also partnered with Rock Creek, and I'm also on the equity steering committee for the district. Oh, and I'm finance rep with my day job. So,
yes, thank you. Bridges, 4th grade teacher over at Glacier. I'm on the exec board. There are grievances, which is why most people may not know me in this room. Not a lot of frequent fires on that right now, which is great. I'm also on the budget committee for the district as well. And my kids were in neighboring, not to be named. They were there before I came here, so.
We won't judge.
Oh, I know.
Hi, everybody. My name is Malia Hollowell, and I am the school board vice president this year, and I'm a former teacher, so you're my people. So at home, and I have 3 kids in the district. I have a 7th grader at Mapleview, a 5th grader at Lake Wilderness, and then a 4th grader at Shadow Lake. And my Tahoma Cares focus is partnership. So we're reaching out to our community partners like Valor, Soccer, and Basketball Association. We're reaching out to the City Council, Chamber of Commerce, and then, of course, our union partners as well.
I'm Jen Benham. I am the ASB, that's my next, I'm the union president. I'm the ASB director at Mapleview. I also teach some of the leadership at Mapleview. I also teach 8th grade science at Mapleview. I have a son at Rock Creek in 2nd grade. I have another son in the Discovery program at Cedar River in 5th grade who will probably be coming to Mapleview next grade. That's not essential.
Terry Collins, Tahoma High School. I have a 2007 graduate, James, from Tahoma High School. Very proud there. I have a 2018 son, Nick. Another very proud there. And so 2 boys, and so we love Tahoma, and I'm very proud to be able to say that our boys graduated from Tahoma and that we work in Tahoma.
Michael Wiggins. I have 5 children. One's just graduated and headed off to college, and I have 3 in high school right now. One that will be heading into high school next year. I correct Kate. Kate has kids. She's had 2 of my kids, so she knows them probably as well as I do. Let's see. From the board position, I'm sort of the champion of high expectations. That's what so that's kind of a lot of my conversations and questions and interests and meetings that I have to champion the cause. I partner with the high school and Shadow Lake from a site perspective, and I serve on the community special services. CPAC is one of my youngest son, who's a sophomore this year, he's on the spectrum. So we become very familiar over the years with kind of special services and programs, and I'm thankful to the teams and people like Kate. Yeah, day job, I'm a chief legal officer with a technology company at the moment, so yeah, nice to have you.
My name is David Abbey. I am the Dean of Students at the world's greatest elementary school. And I do not, going off that, I have 496 kids in the system. The Shadow Lake Tigers that I get to care for on a day-to-day basis. But personally, I have 3 kids that are all at in Eden Palm, where we've lived since we've been married. So close, but not yet.
I'm Mike Hansen, the superintendent. I have 4 kids go through the system. And I got to meet a little Mercer kindergartner when I was in Alex class. It's pretty cool.
My name is James Stanley. I'm the communication specialist. You may have seen my name on some emails, or 2 or 1,000. I have been in Tahoma for a little over a year now. And I grew up in a family of educators. My mom was a teacher for 30 years. She's now retired. And my dad was a school social worker. So education's been a big part of my life forever.
Well, thank you. Just spend some time thinking of some questions for tonight. And the board, what we are really interested in this evening is just listening to all of you and understanding your point of view, your perspective. At the board level, we're focused on these really big strategic ideas like Tahoma Cares, like what you've been hearing about with Tahoma 100, and how we're going to push the system forward and help this generation, the next generation of kids continue to be successful. And we are really interested in seeing how that plays out in your roles inside of classrooms, inside of buildings. It's a few layers removed, and we had the gift of being able to come out of buildings yesterday and see some of that at play, but we're hearing it every day. And so we really want to hear, where relative to those goals that we're talking about, Tahoma Cares, from 100, where's the greatest area of need? What's working? What's effective? Because you are in an incredible position to influence how those goals play out, how effective it can be. So definitely I'm thankful for our partnership with you and this chance to listen. So, Jeannie, I think I'm going to dive in. How's that sound?
Yeah.
Like I said, we had an opportunity to really talk through this, and so we have some questions we'll throw out there and get a conversation. So we expect a substantial increase in our student enrollment over the next 8 years, and we're wondering what are the needs that you have seen providing suitable facilities to support the programs we expect for our kids. And are there spaces that substantially impact the quality of services we provide, or basically considering additional facilities or things we need to keep in mind and build those things out?
I'll start.
Okay.
I'll start with the second part of that question, just because it's near and dear to me, just in the ADA compliance piece. So as most of you know, through the bargaining process, we conducted a special services review where we did a deep dive. We talked to each of the buildings, the staff, all of that. And one of the things that kind of came up was just the level of ADA compliance within our buildings, where there are gaps there. I mean, having ADA buttons, on doors at Cedar River or ramps at other buildings, just making sure that those facilities kind of match just the overall quality that we want to offer all of the kiddos. And then from a more local, just teacher perspective, making sure that our specialists aren't teaching in room closets, or having spaces where they can offer appropriate therapies to our students, so don't have to limit the therapies that they can offer because there are space constraints. Those were 2 big kind of glaring issues that they certainly aren't bargainable. We can't have those discussions at the bargaining table. But I think as we think long-term for our spaces, not forgetting some of those things, making sure that we are meeting those ADA compliance needs, but then also even small group therapies, that they have the appropriate spaces that they need, would be certainly something that I would like to just be at the forefront of the thinking and the conversation.
I would add thinking about lunches. Our schedule right now at both middle schools is not equitable for fourth period. Fourth period has to be longer because it's the only way we can have 3 lunches. And we have to have 3 lunches because we do not have space there when we have less than 3 lunches. So I don't care about the inequity, but like that's where we're at already before we start adding in even more kids. So where are all those kids going to have lunch? And how in the world do you know the schedule where now there's 4 lunches? When we have mixed grade level class, like it's just like the madness of trying to figure out how to make that happen. And then you've got elementary schools where kids are still eating lunches in the classrooms. Right? Like, so that kind of thinking, lunches is not something you really think about when you think about facilities, but it is one of those things that has a major effect on kids. We have kids that will not eat in the lunchroom because it's too crowded. And they're not comfortable, they don't feel safe hanging out in that big room with those long tables. And there's only so much we can do as a culture piece, and some of that just needs to be, that's a huge group of people to be eating lunch all together.
We have a tent at Summit Trail.
We have a tent too, but that's not, it's not a solution. It's not enough to make it not have 3 lunches, right? Like, so, just one of those things that you don't think about when you think about buildings, or you think about classroom space, you think about like, but it is something we should be considering.
Pete, let me add on to that at the high school. I was going back to when the junior high opened, it's now Summit Trail. And so I was there when we opened that building and when it was being built and planning that went into that. And so we had this beautiful building, brand new school. We hadn't had one in Maple Valley in a long time when we opened the junior high. And within 2 or 3 years, we were building up walls, taking out teacher planning areas, specialty rooms that the kids could have to work in, just to make rooms for classroom space. And I really worry about our new high school. We have this beautiful high school, we have all these workspaces for the kids, and as our student population grows, I'm worried that a solution might be to build these walls that we're going to put in. We're going to take all those common planning areas away, open areas for kids to be, and we're talking about, mental wellness a lot with our kids. And we have 2,800 kids in that school, and it's only going to get bigger in student population. And to tag on to what Renee and Jennifer were saying, and then we're even making the school really smaller in space that we have for those kids. And I don't think it's really a solution. I think it is trying to put a Band-Aid on a larger issue. And those areas were built for a reason. And if we just simply throw those areas out and because of necessity, I just don't think it's a good solution to it. I think it's not good for kids. I think, too many people. It's too many people close together, claustrophobic, and eventually you can't walk down the hall. You're just closing those walls and making them.
I really want to hop on what you're saying, because that's, by the time we have a bond issue that goes through, I'll probably be gone. But my husband and I moved here all those years ago because of the schools, and we have chosen to stay. Our kids are gone. It's our community, and I just want what's best for all our kids. And so I want that to be the forefront. It's complicated, and money is a nightmare for you guys to have to deal with. But I want us to really think as much as we can what is best for kids. And I know there's all kinds of different approaches, and there's some really good ones, even with really large schools, and there's some, but I just want to make sure that that's always at the forefront, not just how can we do this the most financially easy way. And you guys have always been very good about that, but I really want to say that because these kids are really important to all of us. And we want them to have the best possible school experience. And I feel bad at the high school, but nobody's fault. It's so big that they can't have an all-school assembly with all the kids. It's nobody's fault, it's how it is, but I want us to kind of keep those things in mind.
I have to speak to the elementary perspective, and one of the newer portables at Glacier. It's phenomenal, it's a great space, it's incredibly healthy, it's wonderful. We do eat in there, and I worry about the day-to-day usage accelerating the feasibility of the building. I mean, just by nature, we have breakfast, we have lunch in there. Well, full time, they're 9, they're 10, and so I worry about the age too quickly of those facilities. And my space overlaps with, I share 2 doors with a 5th grade classroom. Our lunches aren't synced like they were last year, and so there's a 10-minute reminder to eat, and Mr. Barron's next door is still teaching. And so that's always a unique 10 minutes. And I've never done the perspective like, oh, it's just 10 minutes. Well, 10 minutes over 180 days is 1,800 minutes of instruction that could be impacted even minutely by sound. And they're not very soundproof, and nor am I very soundproof. And I know my kids are not very soundproof, and so I always apologize to Mr. Brown, like, sorry, we were a little loud. He's like, that's okay, we're fine. Like, he's gracious that way, but I worry about that, because they're my last year's kids, obviously, like, we all know I had in 4th grade, and, I got to work with Adjournment, and we just want them to have that great experience with losing continuity to it, and they're not losing minutes. I don't know any kid where I can say how they don't really do the next 1,500 minutes. But they're beautiful facilities, I want to see that.
I'm going to move on, keep us going. We've got a lot of things to cover. I want to make sure that we get to them, if not all of them.
Can I ask a follow-up there?
Yeah.
So, thank you. I mean, thank you for acknowledging sort of these are this conversation is great because that's we want to hear this perspective, right? And thank you for acknowledging there's finances, there's space, there's growth, there's money. It's like a multi-varied kind of puzzle that we have to figure this all out. So spaces. I've never spoken with anybody who said space wasn't a critical thing, right? More bodies, more space, and so. But as we try to think 2 or 3 steps ahead, is there any kind of general conversation pieces about like space plus what? Right? If we can't solve every problem in space, like what are some ideas that go around in terms of like next best solution? Is that basically what I'm asking? Like how can we keep the work going when we can't get everything maybe eventually? How do we feel? What's some of the thinking?
So I would add, just if you're thinking scheduling. So I taught in the junior high when we never all had our own classrooms all the time. And I had a year where I traveled every single period. And to be really honest, that's a crap. Nobody should ever have to travel every single period on a cart. Should never happen in any. So when you're doing those master scheduling type things, find ways to do the sharing. So maybe we were blue gold. So put me in one room one day, something like that as a teacher. It's how you deal with the space issue, right? I should not have lived on a cart for an entire year.
It does impact your teaching when you're on a cart. I've done that too 3 or 4 times at junior high and one time at the high school. And the kids are always there before you are. And so you're setting up. I mean, it impacts learning. The kids are there watching you set up, and you're in a different environment in every classroom you go into. And you're setting up in today's world, your technology and the things you have going. And so you're going in, and the kids just sit and watch you set up for 5 or 10 minutes while you're setting everything up, and then you're on the run, and then you pack up and you're off to the next room, and which may not even be nearby, or on the same floor.
And you're fighting with traffic with the kids all in the hallway at the same
Was
time.
hard.
Yeah.
And also, it's harder on the traveling teacher, but teachers whose rooms are used during their planning. It's complicated because you need something. I've had to share a room before. You don't want to go in there around the teacher. And so I can't imagine for elementary you guys ever having to do that. That would just be a nightmare. But it's just something to think about because those are tough.
I would add to it, in high school, we had a beautiful building that I love our building, I love the school. But there were no teacher work areas, planning areas built into that building. even from the beginning. And so we had like Mike Sager, the great Mike Sager, what a great guy and a great teacher, educator. And he was in a storage room planning last year. It's tough when you have this. There are no planning rooms. Your planning room at the high school was to be your classroom, but then you're displaced because you have another teacher coming in to work in your room during your planning. So then you end up being out at like a little staff room. We have those little staff rooms at the high school, and that's where you're doing your planning. And everybody's coming in and they're getting their lunch and they're doing this and copying, and everybody wants to talk to you. And so it makes it hard.
And I think the board is thinking, we're always trying to think outside the box, and we had meetings was ago. We had our technology group come in and talking about some technology implementations that we can actually bring into the classroom if you actually do have to move, like how can we make that less impactful, how can we make that less interruptive to that teaching purpose. So I think that's kind of, as we think, 5 conversations ahead or 3 decisions ahead, we're just trying to capture as much as we can in terms of optionalities and understanding the pain points and stuff.
I think I would just add, just famous song that you can't always get what you want, but you get what you need. I think in a perfect world, we would all have the ideal space, but we know that this isn't an ideal world because there are so many factors that go into being able to build a new building or add on or all of the things that are probably being considered. But we have amazing administrative teams, we have amazing groups of teachers that will come together and they will find the solution. I know that that's probably not a great answer, but I think if we can't get that laundry list, that wish list of checking all those boxes, we're going to have people that are going to put their heads together and they're going to say, well, what can we do? It might not be ideal, but we will make it work in service of the kids and get them what they need. So hopefully we can cross that bridge when we get there in terms of a bond measure, potentially, and getting us the space we need. But one thing that's been evident in the 18 years that I've been here is the partnership that we have with amongst each other. And so we're going to figure it out. It may not be, the wish list and all the boxes get checked, but we'll get there.
There might be some ways to look at what spaces people are in. For example, in our building, our intermediate research room grew so big, she needed a bigger room because physically they wouldn't fit. So she moved to my room, I moved to the counselor's room, and the counselor moved to the research room, teacher's room, all in November. We just didn't pack all our stuff up and shifted rooms in
You
order.
just want to make sure it's not actually musical chairs with someone
Yeah.
doesn't have
Right,
music
but I think there are times you could look at, well, like our counselor said, I have this big space that Kate could move into, that leaves my big space for the.
We'll figure it out. We'll pack up our stuff, move if we have to, but.
Can I go on that?
Sure.
So thinking about it, something that I won't be able to do later. At Cedar River, we are very blessed to have a multi-purpose room, which gives us a flexible space. So it's our lunchroom, we can have assemblies in there, we can move classrooms in there, we can have portable field trips in there. So thinking about having flexible spaces while understanding what's actually occurring in the classroom might be really helpful too. I was in a building that didn't have a lunchroom and we had to use our gym, which impacted the PE schedule. So having a multi-purpose room allowed to open up that PE schedule, which impacted student learning schedules. Just enough.
So room for multiple purposes is what you're saying?
Yes.
Just being open, and Tahoma said put it out. Programs end up being open, so creative ideas. It's almost in the
Mr. Hesse.
I just want to be clear because the recordings go out and people can be critical of the language that's used. And to be clear, and I absolutely understand the messaging at the start of this around ADA accessibility, but we absolutely are ADA compliant at Cedar River. That was just remodeled not too long ago, so compliance is not an issue. That's one piece. The second one, to be clear about the population of the high school, I just pulled up our February counts. It's 2,451. People will use 2,800 a lot to describe the population up there. It didn't even begin at 2,800. It started at just over 2,500 at the beginning of the year. So not being critical, but just want to make sure it's accurate.
One other thing that I want to move on to, we've got some other things to cover too, but the facility piece is a big part of what Tahoma 100 and what we're going to be talking about. And so this is really helpful in that process. One of the, as that topic has been introduced in our conversations, one of the pieces of data that's come to us as a sign of things to come is data around how full the schools are, how many classrooms are used every period of the day, and what that looks like if we travel or we don't travel, and things of that nature. And so that data is coming to us. So I just want you to, that's something that we're considering for sure in that process. So there's some alignment there that I wanted to make sure to point out. Yeah. Related topic, a little bit different. As we look ahead to the 23-24 school year, we're looking closely at our revenue and expenditure gap, and we know that our current spend rate is sustainable. How can we best EDA in supporting students and staff in our system in the area of balance budget? Jamie's favorite question? No.
I'm talking about money.
Yeah.
No, I mean, yes, we all, I think, recognize that there's been a big spend down of some of our reserves. But we're seeing the benefits of that spend down in our classrooms. And I think that's, when you think about TEA and our position, I mean, that's all we really want. We want to see the benefits in our classrooms. So when we talk about our projectors reaching, the end of their lifespan and having, a big spend on some new technology there, that's an investment that I think we can all kind of get behind. I'm actually hoping hope Kimberly Allison sends out that Google Docs so I can be that early adopter, get that thing in my classroom and just let me just, kind of dive in and, get that all figured out. But I think those things are important. It's a wise spend of our community's dollars and something that directly benefits our students. So I know that's not probably a good answer. I'm not the numbers person. None of us are really when it comes to that. But
I think it's really hard to ask teachers how to spend their money. Because none of us know what to do with less of. Right? When we're always thinking about what's best for our kids, we're always thinking about what else could be better for them. So I think it's really hard to ask teachers, what do you not want to do more? I think the bigger thing is, where is the best bang for our buck is the better question to ask. And for me, one of the things I keep thinking about is, we don't have any alternative middle school options really. There's not really much in high school either. And those supports for me are one of the things that I always feel like is someplace I would have to see some more money put in. What else can we do for those kids who are struggling in middle school?
In high school.
Right, and then, but I can say the same question to high school too. What else can we be doing to support them that we're not already? And I don't have that answer. I just know that I always feel like that's a place that I always want there to be more solutions for them than are right now.
Mike, at Roundtable, you mentioned how many kids we have graduate from high school and then the chunk of kids who don't. Do you remember what that number was?
So our on-time graduation rate is 92.1% or something like that. And then our extended graduation rate is like 96 point something %. That includes up to the following year.
Because, yeah, just, thinking about those kids in the world we live today. We want all our kids to be able to. So is there another way to support those kids? I wish I had an answer for you. But there are people out there doing that work, and maybe it just takes some people researching something.
And I have a follow-up question for both of you. When you say alternative options for middle schoolers and high schoolers, are you talking about CTE programs? Are you talking about support services?
Maybe support, and we do a lot of creative support, and we visit those. The good thing is that, we visit what's working, what's not, what we need to do differently. But yeah, we still have kids who are struggling.
So what I would say is, I think the kids who, no matter what support we give them, we still expect them to fit in a normal classroom, right? Like, I don't have a small setting for them. I don't have, I can modify my curriculum to a point, but at some point it's still the 8th grade science curriculum, right? Like, so there's, what other supports can we give them that I can't give them a parent that's with them 24/7 unless they're struggling. Like, all of those kinds of things, that's where I start to look. So for example, we have a girl who, she's now out of our district now. And that's pretty much what she does is when things aren't going well, her mom pulls her and puts her somewhere else. And so now she's going to online school. And I just wonder if on the time, she's becoming successful in online school, that is not really the right placement for her. But in the time that we had her, could we have found something else that would have helped her, that would have made her stay? Right, so those kinds of kids are the kids that I start to think about as those kids who, the regular ed classroom just isn't working, and we do what we can to support them, but there's only so much we can do too. So what other options do we have? I mean, I taught Tahoma for 10 years, so there was a lot more options for, math and rap continued all the way up, right? Like, it wasn't just elementary school, it went up further, Some of those supports for the kids who aren't special ed aren't 504, but yet aren't always your most successful kids across the board. And what more supports can we offer them without killing the people who are trying to get them to them?
And loading teachers with extra work. Because
Yeah.
right now I think everyone's max. I mean, and that goes from literally Mike, who I swear the man never has a shorter than 12 hours a day, all the way down. I mean, so we're going to have to be creative, but it just might take some time to look at different ideas. I know when I started 19 years ago, we used to have teaming homeschool. And it was really successful. I mean, we had great luck with it. We really did. Well, then when we had the big change 6 years ago, we didn't have it. We just wouldn't work with the setup we had. I'm not saying we have to go back to that, but maybe we can find it in a creative way. Because that really did help kids. And parents, because it took the right people together. It was a little bit easier. But we need to look at those kinds of things too.
And we ended our alternative Maple Valley High School, and I don't know if we've ever done a study about what the impact that was on student learning for that population. I think Renee and Jen are talking about, and that might be attending an alternative high school. And so, and what's in place that isn't fulfilling.
And we might find that it hasn't had the impact we might think it has, but looking at those numbers is really powerful.
One of the things that replaced Maple Valley High School is a program called Open Doors, which is run through Green River Community College. We currently have 48 students who are placed.
I never knew about that. That's awesome.
One of the things I wonder about is your figure you just gave 92.1, so that means 7.9 didn't.
Correct.
And I wonder-ish, I wonder if that 7.9, because our scores are incredible, right? We have very high scores in SBA, we have very high scores in a lot of different ways. But I wonder if we tracked that 7.9 every year back, were they the same students that have been receiving support services in middle school and then elementary? And if they're the same 7.9, where can we truly make an impactful intervention on them so that closes the gaps by the time they get to high school, that number shrinks dramatically because we haven't heard. And I don't know that obviously, but I wonder about that data around those kids and past kids Is the 7.9 always been a 7.9 for kindergarten when they got math and that? And how come we didn't close the gap for those kids? And what could we, when you're talking about creativity and doing things differently, how do we close that gap? Because 7.9 is 7.9 too much.
Sorry, it's not an answer how to save money, but it's more and more, we would love us to find a way to focus.
Ultimately, we want to know when we can help kids do better and be more successful and support the teachers that are delivering teaching to them. So if that question took us down that path, then great, because we guys talk about how we can help kids. So let's do that.
Well, I'd like to save money.
Okay, well, let's keep going. The board is committed to addressing equity issues in our school system. How have the investments in training and support manifested in your buildings and classrooms and service of kids and staff?
You go. I'll go after you.
I was thinking back on that to my first year in the district. Mr. Hanson and I sat on the date, and we were looking at how we were supporting kids at the elementary level. And what came out of that was the future ready student classroom experience. And I think about how profound an experience, at least at Glacier, having Mrs. Hagan and Mrs. Hanson, and now just Mrs. Hanson, how incredibly impactful that experience has been, that my kids can cite rhyme and verse about future ready and the skills and how it impacts the classroom, how it impacts at recess. And that conversation about equity is about each, it's about every, it's about all. And they drink that, for lack of a better phrase, they drink in that Kool-Aid to where they're walking out just really believing something. I think a change that we did in our system from that committee that we sat on, I think has been a profound effect. And it's, I think, amazing. I'd love to see how we can continue that kind of work when we talk about broadening our equity plans, because that has been incredibly strong.
I was going to just mention the training we had. I see a difference even in just how staff think about kids and make sure that we're being fair with kids and approaching things in ways so that every kid feels valuable and important. And it's interesting. There are a lot of things that's really subtle, but if you start paying attention, I think we're just all more aware in a really good way. And it's, our world is complicated right now, and it's not always, the real world is not always very equitable and caring. And I think that training has really helped. It makes you think of things in a way that you might not have before. And sometimes we'll talk in class and I'll mention, I'm like, I need to understand, because I'm a middle-aged white lady who grew up in Everett. And my experience is different, so let's understand this together. And hearing the kids hear that, it's been really profound. And I wouldn't have thought of it that way before the training. And so the kids, I will say, of color feel that. And we have some ELL kids and some immigrant kids, and just asking them questions and valuing their experience. I was talking to a kid we had, Janie and I co-teach, she's in our 8th grade class, and his family's from Iraq. He's been here about 6 years, and just watching him, like, wow, someone really cares about this. It was really powerful, and I'm really proud of the district for that, because starting with Emily Hart and all that work she did, and now that Tony is doing it, it's so important. So I have to say that your people are awesome.
I think in large measure, a lot of times, not a lot of times, all the time, it comes down to that individual teacher and individual student. And does the student and the teacher have a relationship, and where that student feels that they're valued and that they're known, and that you have a caring teacher that's in their class and somebody they can relate to, somebody they can confide in. And to me, that's what it's all about. And then to me, that's what teaching is all about, really. I mean, 20 years from now, they may not remember your curriculum, but hopefully they remember you and your relationship and the bonds that you build with them. And so I think it's that one-on-one, and then going to the whole group. But that one-on-one connection is huge in teaching. And when I think of in our system over the 25 years I've been here, if I was going to name the teachers, I won't do it, but I could. If I was going to name the teachers that are the all-star, rock-star teachers at the junior high school level, it would be those teachers who build those bonds. We just name them off who they are.
We have a lot of them.
And I 100% agree with you, but I think there is power in seeing yourself as a student reflected out in your teachers. And that's something that I think we would all acknowledge we could work on here in Tahoma. And so one thing I want to just highlight is the work that Tony is doing in the creation of the Tahoma Educators of Color Networking. That's a partnership that he and Callie and just the TEA group has kind of ushered that in. It's relatively new, so there's a lot of work to be done in that particular arena, but it's bringing our educators of color together to just support one another. And Tony will be providing some financial support for that work. TEA will be supporting that, and so just really letting those educators guide that work will kind of be the next important big steps. I know Tony could probably speak more eloquently about the work that he's doing, but that will just be a big part of not only retaining the people that we do have, but just developing a network where we can encourage people to come here. It's great. I have a 42-year-old white lady experience that, I'm more than happy to share with you, but, not all of my students share that. And I love asking the questions and I love getting to know them, and that's the power in the relationship. But I think it's really important for all of our students to see their teachers reflect the community in which they live. And I'm not sure that we're there yet. So we've got some work to do. And then just on a more broad level, NEA, or WEA, and the Sammamish Uniserve Council, having the Nakia Academy, which is that statewide, basically the Tahoma Educators of Color taking that statewide and really developing and training teachers of color, and then working on just that power of retention, inviting them, getting them here, and then working to retain them. So we're also putting money into that. We've started our own, I think it's $10,000 we've committed to our own Sammamish Uniserve Council Nakia Academy, so we'll have our own more localized group of educators of color coming together, receiving training, learning how to mentor other teachers of color, bringing educators into our systems here locally. So looking forward to over the next handful of years how those two groups kind of manifest here locally in Tahoma, but more broadly across just the King County area with our Uniserve.
I think another concrete piece, we moved away from that glacier. I don't know if this is all of it. We moved away from a celebrational night to a cultures and traditions night, where our families get to celebrate, our kids get to celebrate our heritage, the culture, the traditions. And I think that I have more kids excited about that night, and it's my students of color and my minority-based students that are like, I can't wait to, and then they talk about what they're going to bring and what they're going to represent. So giving them an avenue to share who they are and feel valued, and there's going to be an amazing amount of multicultural food in the gym. I try to spend an hour in my classroom and not go to the gym, but I think it's those kind of concrete shifts, right? Like who came to Celebration Learning, now who's going to come to that cultures and tradition night. It's going to be fascinating to watch. I'm really excited about it.
And I would just say one other thing on a totally different issue of equity, because we know that it's not always about race and gender and all those other things, but just our PLC plus work is, I think, having some impacts really when you get into the who benefits and who doesn't, questioning of your PLC processes, really digging into what are the reasons that the students aren't successful, and really working together to figure out how we can continue to move all of our students forward. So I think that's been a real positive over these first 6 months of the school year, really digging into that process. And specifically that question around how all of our students can be successful and what are the reasons that they're not quite there yet.
Going back to our previous conversation we were having and coalescing a few of the threads there, I think you said at what point in K through 12 can we have the greatest impact to alter the trajectory? We heard voices say we don't have necessarily options for those kids that don't operate well in a setting and so forth. I think that question, if we can use that as a wedge and figure things out about, we might, we talked about we don't know what those answers are right now, but we might find those answers if we continue.
Over time.
Over time, exactly. That's right.
And we go, so that's what's exciting, is to see what that, over time, what that brings in, when it shows us, then we can be creative together and how we solve that problem.
There's so many ways that you can do, the PLC plus process, the PBIS process, if you can get to those tier 2 and tier 3 kids. It's not special education interventions, it's not a 504 interventions, but what else can we provide? I think there's a lot of opportunity to be had to reach those 7.9% and reach them at a point where you can change the trajectory of their experience here.
Speaking of that, that's actually the financial stimulus 7.9. So we just talked about at our PDI stuff that I think we're at 92% have one or less office referrals that are building. So it's kind of that same 8% number coming back around to our high flyers. So I really do wonder how much that carries. It's a good thing. Ooh, so that's a good thing.
Let me keep moving. The next question has to do with wellness, and we're wondering about how have the investments in training and support around multitude systems of support, mental health, curriculum, improved overall health for our kids and staff.
We started some things before COVID and had some trainings, which I think were really, really helpful. Like if I have a kid who, because I tend to have good relationships with kids and sometimes they share things, but now I know, okay, this is what I do, this is how I work with the counselor to get them the help they need. Then I'm not going to let the counselor do their part, but those trainings I think are really helpful. I think when we talk about wellness with staff, we have lots of opportunities. And the thing I hear from staff the most is there's opportunities there, but they're already so busy with lives. Especially if they have kids at home, and a good chunk of our staff does. That's awesome, those classes there, but I just don't have the time to do some of them. Or sometimes I think they might even do them, but just have the time to be able to go look and spend a few minutes, or just busy. But I love that those opportunities are there. I mean, we're on the right track. But I just think that sometimes we might have more people, I just think, especially this time of year, everybody's maxed out. I just would never want a staff member to feel like, oh, yeah, they're giving us wellness, but of course I don't have time to do it. I don't want a staff to have that feeling. I think we just need to keep saying, hey, we have these opportunities. If you want to take them, they're there for you.
I feel like I've done all the talking, so I really want
I was just trying to think about it at a middle school level, right? And so I think about where are we teaching the kids, you talked about the mental health curriculum, I'm like, the only time we really do any of that is stretch. And I don't know that it's the most successful place for it. And I don't know that it's as successful as it could be. Now, I don't know what the solution is. I'm just being really honest that I feel like I don't know that we're getting the bang for our buck by using it as per stretch class. I don't know what the better solution is.
I do think we have more kids with needs, those kind of needs right now.
Yes.
I think it was during before COVID, and COVID was trauma, and I got those words from one of our kids. And I know like our counselors, they're busy, they're slammed, and we added counselors, thank goodness. But I do think we have more kids with those needs than we ever have before.
So I feel that we need to build this within the middle school level if we're really going to talk about a mental health curriculum. I don't think stress is the right place for it. I just don't know how to get it across. Kids, nobody feels like they have enough time in the class to like give up time, right? Like, so I'm not sure where the best place to put it is. But half an hour, by the time you take attendance all the day, I just don't think it's going to get the bang for its buck.
Do agree with Jen, but I think there are things that we could maybe reimagine, look at doing differently. But I do want to acknowledge just that there have been important investments over the last handful of years that I think have supported the kids. Has it gone far enough? I think we would all acknowledge that we could always use more, there could always be more. But I think the continued first effort, just bringing that program here was a huge win and a huge benefit to our students. Is it where we want it to be? Is it working at max capacity? No, but I look over the course of the 4-ish years, I think, 4.
That sounds like 4 or 5.
Just how many kids are connected to our expert folks and how many kids are being supported, that's a huge victory. I mean, we didn't have that before. I will also look more locally just through the bargaining process, being able to bargain additional counseling services. I think those have all been important investments that the district has made in the overall health and well-being of kids. Are we where we want to be? No. Are there still great needs? Yes, but I think it's important to acknowledge those places where we have made gains. I think there's also some work, and I don't want to out anybody if it's not public knowledge, but I know that there's some work being done at the district level, central service level, in digging into MTSS and doing some of that work. I don't know if it's simply in the special services realm, but I know there's a group of people teaching and learning special services equity that are kind of getting some real kind of frequent training over the course of the next year in the hopes that we can start to do some of that work in the multi-tiered systems of support, which I think gets at a lot of the things we've talked about, how those kids that maybe don't quite fit in the system, instead of finding a new place, how can we support them differently here, the mental health, the wellness, all of those things, maybe getting some of those programs off the ground and implemented in a building or two or district-wide, we can start to support kids in a greater way.
I think the DESA at the elementary level in its infancy has so much potential. I'm really curious to see what it looks like after a year of digging into that data. I don't think we have enough time, at least at the teacher level. I know they have maybe more at the systems level, the PBIS level. But it was interesting when we did the first screening here, staff members kind of go, oh, really not that kid's scoring. Interesting. And it's time to start making some staff look at kids a little bit differently, which I think is a very powerful thing to do. We do our next round, we're in our next round right now, so we'll see what that looks like. But there's so much involved in that program that if we can figure out how to implement it strongly, but it needs our support staff, it has all the potential.
Can I look at you, David?
Absolutely.
So what would you add? Because in your positions.
I'm in a unique position. Yes, MTSS is, I'm cheering because you can't teach kids reading, writing, math, and science if they're hurting, if they're not fed, if they're worried about what's going to happen when they get home. And can we care for every one of those kids every day at school? We don't have enough money to do that. One of the things I love about our district is we do truly care for our kids, and we are a fiscally responsible district that produces high results. And over the years we built a reserve. We're spending that down. The problem is with saving money. When you spend it, it's gone. And I'm conservative in the fact that we can't put all our money in staffing because when the money's gone and we've relied on that staff, and the staff is gone. And so I don't want to say, hey, we need to hire 18 counselors and an MPSS director and all these other things, and then when the money's gone, we're left holding the bag and we don't know what to do, and we have to say what program are we going to cut. But yeah, I'm all for, we need to worry about the whole child and what can we do. So things like DESA, things like ESPERT, the SEL program at the elementary school, I will applaud that and stand up and say we need more of that. I also say we need to centralize our thinking. We have 6 different elementaries right now doing amazing things, and really, and no time for our SEL people and our deans and our counselors to all come together and say, what's working for you? What can we do better? What are the resources we can use? And so some of those things cost money, some of them don't. I love that our district is looking in to multi-tiered systems of support. I think that's important for the whole child. I love that we're having these conversations, and I echo this to multiple boards, that this doesn't happen everywhere, that we can sit down and say, and put the kid in the center of the room and say, okay, this conversation is going to help kids, and that we can have this collaborative relationship and talk about things. And I want more of that for our kids and for us to grow together. And I know that we have a lot of big issues, whether it's financial or it's building or it's even equity. But ultimately, it's like, what can we do to help the whole child learn? And when Mike talked about it at our admin retreat, and it made me think about Shadow Lake. And based on our graduation, rates, I could look at, say, okay, the entirety of my building, that's, that many kids aren't going to graduate in our system. And that's saying, you know what, and our statistics are better than most. And that's not, I'm not patting ourselves on the back. Yes, we have a great system, but we can do better. And it isn't just money. It isn't just the resources. We do a great job of hiring people and supporting them. And I don't have the answers right now. What can we do better? But yes, I think building into people, giving them the training, and especially specifically around MPSS, I think is extremely important. Sorry, that was a long-winded answer too.
That's great. Thank you.
I think it was a couple more meetings ago. We had the wellness folks in, and one of the questions came up. What happens in some of these programs when the money goes away that came in from the COVID time? And I love the answer. The answer was, trying to not just bolt on service or budget, but thinking about while we have the service, while we have the support, what can we use to learn from it? What can we deploy ourselves, and what can we leverage across teams? And I like the answer in the sense that it kind of goes to what you're saying is you have to be able to, if you want to continue the work, you have to be able to continue the work. And it becomes sort of a catch a fish, teach to fish sort of thing. And what are those points? And when you combine that with, I think, the comment I've heard several times from you is, what are the things that really move the needle? Kind of going back, looking at the data sets, and really kind of coming through that. So where do we really get the most bang for the buck? Where in the K to 12 progression does that thing flip? And we see that once that kid hits that gate, they are there for that duration until graduation or not graduation. And really being smart about the data, leveraging into that, leaning into that. So I think there's a lot of places where we can do that, and I guess I would just finish the thought and say, please pat yourself on the back every once in a while. I mean, it feels disingenuous, I recognize, to say, hey, there's still kids who are struggling. I don't want us to pat ourselves on the back because it's everybody. That's the word, right? That's the t-shirts that roll. And it's every kid, every building, every classroom. But, you know, there is value, I think, in recognizing as a district we're doing better. Can you always have more money? Yeah, you can. I mean, you could open up the heavens with cash and budget, and we would always be able to find places to put that. So go back through those successes, I guess is what I'm saying, and see where we have those successes, see where they're tied to, and see where we can amplify that, mimic that, replicate that, leverage that, cross-learn that, those types of things. And I think there's some useful exercises there.
Eric and I were lucky enough to serve on a national committee, and with probably 25 or so community members. And as we were sharing about where revenues come from, where's our expenditures, where's the unfunded programs, and what do we need to be thinking about? Most people in the room were shocked to see that in King County, we get the second least amount of revenue per kid. And surprised to find out we also spend the second least amount of revenue per kid. And yet we get the results that we get. And so a common question is, wait, how is that happening? What's different? And I know for me it's a super easy answer. And it's the same thing that Carrie just said. It's those caring people in a classroom who are really good at what they do. And how do we make sure we keep those people? How do we make sure we continue to attract those kind of people and retain them? Because they are our best weapon against all the things that we talk about in leading MTSS. It's that individual in a classroom and that relationship with the kid and the people who care deeply. I believe that to the core. But this conversation is super affirming because, and I feel like Jamie stole my thunder, because all of the MTSS stuff, the conversations are happening right now. I shouldn't say all, most of the MTSS stuff, the conversations happening right now, really are a big part of that. And I'm like writing notes that, yeah, we talked to Carrie about what's actually going on at the high school, that kind of stuff. So it's two parallel things happening where TEA and your membership, you're seeing the need and have ideas, and it feels good to know that we're having the same direction.
We're 8 minutes over. I want to honor your time, and I just want to say thank you for taking time out of your evening. I know it's a while ago already, and I have school tomorrow, and you got to get up and things. And, so I'm really thankful for your sharing your perspective and your experience, and love the partnership all in service of making this a great place for kids that come to school and learn and succeed. And so just thank you for that, and we will adjourn at 09.
Thank you guys. And that was not me being weird. She was coughing. Oh, that's Jamie. Oh, hey Jamie, there's seltzer.
Made it worse.
Sure. Hey.
I was trying to say this forever. I know. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Yes, it is. So here's our song.
Okay.